This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm Joe Rimmer and today I'm joined by three fine gentlemen to talk about another great win for the Reds on Saturday afternoon. The Reds beat Arsenal 3-1 in what was a fairly straightforward victory. That's 3 wins from 3 now, 9 points, the only team on those 9 points at the top of the Premier League. So a very decent start. I'm joined by Theo Squires, who was at Anfield on Saturday. Theo, how are you?
I'm good, thanks Joe. You?
I'm good. I'm all the better for having some Theo Squires mother cake. Which,
it's a great cake, isn't it?
Today. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, enjoyed that.
Inspired by naming me, of course.
Yeah. On my left is Theo's mortal enemy, Dan Kerr.
Call that a name. Call that a cake. No, it was a very nice cake. Nice one, Theo's mum.
Yeah. Is that sort of build bridges between you and
well,
Theo?
I think we're getting there, aren't we? We're kind of there's a peace mission going on.
We're on late this week, aren't we? Together, so we've got to make amends in time for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
After name gate.
There's no Iron team.
Yeah. And on the far left is the tall man. He is our full-time Liverpool reporter, both home and away. It's Ian. Then he called me
Wow.
Freudian.
It's been called worse, I think.
Yeah. It is Paul
Really?
Ghost. Have you really?
Hard to believe, to be honest.
Yeah. It's Paul Ghost.
Hello, Joe.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
To be honest, it was this exact same lineup other than Ian Doyle for you on Friday, so that maybe is why I slipped.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Because you were sunning yourself in Cornwall.
I was 300 miles down south, catching plenty of rays. Good to have a week off, but now I'm back and ready to get stuck into the latest pod.
What a way to celebrate getting the LFC correspondent job. Just missed the next game.
Yeah, just missed the next 2 games. It was actually a holiday that was booked months ago, wasn't it? So
well,
had it long before it was all.
Is that the first time you've had the title for a pod intro?
Second.
We gave him the big build up when he first got announced.
Yeah, I wasn't listening, obviously.
No,
Hey, I was off as well then.
go home and listen to
excuse.
that. We did mention names before, and I'd like to just say something at the start here because the last podcast I did get quite a lot of stick. Deservedly maybe for my stance on nicknames, and I would like to say first of all I was only joking. You can call the players whatever you bloody well please.
That's a load off.
Two, I'm going to lift for this podcast and all podcasts going forward. I'm going to lift my nickname ban. So as cringe as it is, you can call Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain the Ox, and Bobby. You know what? You can call him Bobby. Bobby's the Ox is worse than Bobby, but go on, yeah. Call them what you like. I don't want to get abusive tweets like I got last time from.
You got a few, didn't you?
Yeah, one man
you?
telling me to go and move to North Korea.
Well,
Which I don't know whether it was a little bit of an exaggeration, but I understand this
You
point.
playing red?
Dan and I had one guy tweet us tagging us saying even the club called him Bobby. It's like, but you weren't tagged in that one. It's like, we were calling him Bobby.
Yeah, you can call him Bobby. I'll still call him Roberto, but I wasn't telling people what they had to call him. Just what I didn't like.
fair enough.
Thanks for clarifying your position on that, Joe.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up because I didn't want to get any more abusive tweets. Anyway, let's be positive because Liverpool have won their 3rd game on the bounce in the league. Very happy. Theo, we'll start with you as you were there on Saturday evening in the press box. A thoroughly enjoyable win. Liverpool dominated pretty much from start to finish. Job well done.
Yeah, it's what we're getting used to when Liverpool face Arsenal at home. These comfortable, emphatic victories. Arsenal could tell they just wanted to play defensive. They were so deep for the majority of the game, obviously fearful of Liverpool's front three, getting in behind them on the fullbacks, getting in and getting the crosses in. And you could tell that there was a lot of balls coming in from Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, and they were just clearing them. Opening goal took a little while to come, but once Liverpool got it, there was no fears that they were going to drop points. They just found it so easy. All the talk before the game was how this was their biggest test. We were obviously talking about the offside trap, the high defensive line. And there was only really 1 or 2 occasions where they came under threat. One of them was self-made, Henderson giving it away and Pepe running one-on-one. Aubameyang had a chance. Apart from that, it was really straightforward. Mohamed Salah, great brace, probably one of the best penalties we've seen at Anfield. And the second goal, I don't care what excuses David Luiz wants to come out with. He can try and kick him as much as he wants. Yeah. Salah is scoring that, and that is one of the great individual goals Anfield's witnessed as well. Good to see Matip get his first Premier League goal of the season. 2 and 4 now, is it, for him? Yeah. He's really starting to make that shirt his own, and can't really complain when you're top of the league, 100% record.
Yeah, okay. Well, Dan, you and I briefly spoke about it before we came into this podcast. Arsenal have come to Anfield and rolled over on a few occasions in recent years, but this was a better Arsenal team, wasn't it, than what we've seen?
Without question, yeah. I thought they were quite impressive, and obviously it's very, very, very early days in the season, but on the initial impressions from the first round of 3 games, I think Arsenal will be very much pushing for 4th and possibly even 3rd, bearing in mind how Tottenham got on yesterday. And they caused Liverpool some difficulties, particularly in that first half hour. Nicolas Pepe, who obviously there's been a lot spoken about, and a lot of people kind of quite interested to see how he'd do in his first start. He did seem to cause Van Dijk in particular some discomfort. But I think I mentioned in the podcast on Friday when we were talking about Liverpool's supposedly less than perfect defensive start to the season. When you're playing at the level that Liverpool are playing at, the top end of the Premier League, the top end of the Champions League, you're playing against some of the best attacking players in Europe, in the world, who occasionally are going to play well and cause you problems. And I think you have to accept that. As this, we're fortunate, and we've got some outstanding defenders, outstanding goalkeeper, and an excellent manager that obviously has them very well honed and very well drilled. But there are going to be spells in games when you are going to be under the cosh. Now, I've just occurred to me now as we're talking about this. I've been reading a report on Saturday evening. I think it might have been in Paul Joyce's Times match report, formerly this Parish, of course. And sorry to bring this on you, Joe, to make a slight cricketing reference, which a lot of sports fans around the country will have.
Cricket is banned from this podcast.
Well, I've got quite a relevant little analogy. Well, but this basically is a quote from Joyce's match report, but I think it's very apt in terms of Liverpool's performance in that first half hour, and it kind of tapped into a theme that cricket fans around the country will have been talking about a lot in the last couple of days. So he's talking about Klopp, and he says mental strength has become such a big part of their armoury under Klopp, and this, i.e. the first half hour of the game before Liverpool really got cracking, was the equivalent of good test match batting, hanging in when things were tricky before taking full advantage once conditions become benign. And I think this has become a real feature of the last year to 18 months of Klopp's side, a real maturity and an understanding of games that you're not going to dominate teams for 90 minutes. There are going to be spells when you're under the cosh and you've just got to dog it out, see it out, get through it and wait for things to change and make things change. And Liverpool did that expertly well on Saturday. And in the end, I mean, 3-1 probably, I suppose, is a fair reflection because Arsenal did play quite well in patches certainly for that first half hour and in spells towards the end when, again, to use another cricketing analogy, which you just used, Joe, Liverpool had kind of declared.
Yeah, okay.
But
I'll give you that one.
As Gorsty just pointed out just before we come on air, Ben, at 3-0, it could and possibly should have been 4-5-6, and I think that's one of the really encouraging parts. You still get that sense that Liverpool haven't really got started yet, and yet we're top of the league with 9 points from 3, so we'd all take that.
Most of us predicted 3-1, didn't we? So
apart from me, I said 4-2.
Did you?
That's still the same gap.
Well, Klopp actually alluded to it, Paul, in his press conference before the game, and he said, look, against big players, you're not going to stop them having chances. They're going to have chances, and that's why you make blocks. That's why you have a goalkeeper. So he knew what he was talking about, and when Liverpool needed them, Joel Matip made a fantastic block to stop Aubameyang. Yeah. A good save from Adrian, albeit not the best shot, but players stood up and were counted, weren't they, in key parts of that early part of the game?
Exactly, yeah. And it's, as Dan says, Liverpool don't operate in a vacuum. There's another team who are trying to win the game just as much as they are, and sometimes these players are going to have chances and opportunities and they will score. It's just part and parcel. I'm not overly concerned with Liverpool's defensive performances so far. It's all part of the system, and particularly defending, it's a lot more about your team and you working in that team rather than just individual brilliance of attackers. So I think over the next few weeks they'll line out any flaws that they have at the moment, and they'll start keeping a few more clean sheets, because let's face it, they were the best defence in the Premier League last season, weren't they, with, was it 21 clean sheets and just 22 conceded? Yeah. Nearly kept more clean sheets than goals conceded, which is just an astonishing statistic to even think that was nearly possible. So no concerns defensively, and Liverpool and Klopp probably wish they could play Arsenal every week. I think it's 18 goals in 4 games, or 4 or 5 games now. 4 comfortable wins and 1 3-3 draw, and they're just cannon fodder, aren't they, for Liverpool Arsenal when they come to Anfield, as Saturday proved. And as Dan says, it probably should have been 4 or 5 after the third one went in, but they did declare and couldn't shut up shop. But I'm not worried about that long term.
Theo, there was a lot of talk following the game about Unai Emery's tactics, very clear midfield diamond and allowing Liverpool's fullbacks to have a lot of the ball. What did you think about that? Because I think afterwards it's easy to look back in hindsight and say got it all wrong, but Liverpool's opening goal came from a set piece. They didn't have any, you would say, clear-cut chances before that. It seemed to be working, and it also said a lot about the respect Arsenal had for Liverpool, didn't it?
Well, Liverpool got, 23 or something ridiculous assists from the fullbacks last year. And whilst they were getting the crosses in, because Arsenal was so deep with so many men back, Liverpool weren't getting the chances. I think there was the one early on when Firmino could have got on the end of a Robertson cross and just missed it. And there was a couple like that went all the way across the box. But for the majority, Arsenal centre-backs dealt with it relatively well. I think it was a pretty reasonable tactic because Liverpool's strength is getting men in behind defences, and they just couldn't do that for the majority of the game. Like, the main moment they did was when Salah got his second goal, and then you're looking at it, it did the job. Like with the midfield diamond, it meant Firmino had to drop deeper, so you weren't seeing him in the dangerous positions that we're seeing against Arsenal before, where he's got such a good goal scoring record. The only problem with Arsenal doing the containing is that when they were trying to counter-attack with Aubameyang and Pepe, they were a little bit light. There was just that one man going forward a second. Maybe if they'd had Lacazette in there from the start, then it would have been a bit more of a danger for Liverpool. But it's ridiculous looking at it, because it was at times like it was almost 2-3-2-3, with Fabinho just sitting, sweeping up, and another array of Liverpool attack going every time Arsenal cleared the ball. Yeah,
it says a lot, doesn't it, Dan, about the strength of Liverpool as a team when a team as good as Arsenal, and people might sneer at them at times, but they're still a top 6 Premier League club, and a team as good as Arsenal come play a tactic like that and almost say, well, all right, we can't stop your attack and your full-back, so let's try and deal with your attack and let your full-backs have a go. And Liverpool have just so many strengths now, don't they?
Yeah, I think in many ways it's a compliment to Liverpool and a sign of respect of obviously the position that Klopp and his men have put themselves in over the last 3.5 years, where we're clearly one of the best teams in the country, one of the best teams in Europe, and I think as the season goes on, we will see similar type of unusual tactical devices employed to try and give a team a platform in a game. Some may be more successful than others, and one thing that I think we can all take confidence and heart from is the fact that this Liverpool team are pretty good at problem solving. Over the course of certainly last season, when it was such a roller coaster at times, and obviously the expectation level had been raised so much by a couple of years that had come before, and obviously the way we were playing and the position that we were occupying at the top of the league for pretty much the whole campaign. They will have curveballs thrown at them, and this Liverpool team has shown a real capability of being able to analyse a problem, read a situation, and find solutions on the hoof. And I think this is something that we'll see more of as the season goes on, because a lot of teams will realise now you can't just try and take this Liverpool team on, because they'll rip you to shreds.
Isn't it something that we wanted to see, or we complained about last season when teams were playing Man City and they weren't going at them, they weren't giving them a game? Well, maybe this is what we're going to get used to now. Like when you got one of the better teams in the country, just defending and absorbing the pressure. It's Liverpool's status as European champions.
Yeah. But I think this is something you want to see as a football fan. I mean, obviously, as Liverpool fans, we want to see teams have a go at City and not just roll over and accept a 2-0, 3-0 defeat. Obviously, we can be, and the same, as you say, the same will apply to teams when they take us on. But just in a general sense, it's not good for the game when teams are essentially writing their chances off before they even get started. If football or any sport turned out the way people predicted every time, no one would watch it. The beauty of sport is that the chance of the unexpected, the unlikely. And we all talked about Norwich, who obviously were at Anfield in the first game of the season, and there was a couple maybe slightly patronising remarks aimed at them for their willingness to try and play, even if obviously they ended up getting a fairly heavy beating. But I really hope that teams up and down the league we'll see what the likes of Norwich and Arsenal have done and realise that I think you get a lot more patience from your own supporters if you've had a go and it doesn't come off. But when you've not even had a go and you still get beat, then there's nowhere left to go, is there? So hopefully, other teams will see this, and I think the game of football in the Premier League will be better for it.
felt like you needed to get that off your chest. And it felt like
it's
a moment for you.
Not over the last. I can remember going back, must be 15 odd years. Towards the end of the season, it was when Sheffield United ironically in the Premier League, and Warnock was the manager. Now we ended up having a big, massive rant.
Everyone's fault but his own.
Well, they didn't have a big rant at the end when Liverpool, who were in like the Champions League semis, played a weak team against Fulham.
Yeah.
And Fulham got the win, and Sheffield United got relegated, I think, having lost over to Wigan on the last day.
Yeah.
But Liverpool were kind of only really on the fringes of the title race. I think it was really more Chelsea going with for United that year. But I remember a game at Old Trafford in like mid-March. I don't know, just following it on the radio, or Twitter was even a thing then. But basically, Warnock Lane, pretty much a scratch team at United away, basically saying, "I'm not even going to try and get any points today." And there was very much an impression afterwards that he was satisfied with the 2-0 defeat. So his moans about Liverpool at the end of the season kind of wore thin, because people say, "Well, hang on, what have you just done 2 weeks ago?" Football's there to be won. Have a go. At least if it doesn't come off, fine. But I just think as a supporter, primarily, you will always have that little bit more patience and respect for your team if they've at least had a go, rather than just cowardly, not even had a bash.
I don't quite know how we got here, but I agree.
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
Of course, he's supposed to follow that. Yeah, that's very passionate.
It kind of feels like I'm going to change tack here and talk about Liverpool versus Arsenal. But but it was a bit of a... We'll talk about two centre-halves who had very different fortunes on the day. We'll start with David Luiz, Paul, who I actually spoke in the podcast on Friday and said we'd never really seen David Luiz tends to have good games against Liverpool, and we'd never really seen this David Luiz who's this cartoon character who does crazy things. Yeah. And lo and behold, there on Saturday evening, off he went. And I mean, first of all, I can't quite believe that he was trying to say that it wasn't a penalty after the game because he didn't pull his shirt that hard. And then, second of all, he was saying, well, Salah only got past me because I couldn't kick him because it was on a yellow card. It was a bizarre performance, and it played right into Liverpool's hands, didn't it?
It did, and I actually like David Luiz as a defender. I thought when Chelsea won the league a couple of years ago, I thought he was great. I thought he was very good for the couple of months of last season, but these incidents and these kind of performances just let him down so much, don't they? And they play into the hands of people who just think he's a bit of a caricature defender who shouldn't be anywhere near a back four. And it was a penalty, wasn't it? It doesn't matter if he's only grabbed him or he's hauled him to the ground. He still had hold of his shirt, clear as day, stopped Salah getting through for the goal. So that was a penalty.
Was it him that was grappling with Van Dijk as well for the first goal? Because there was about 6 Arsenal players
trying to hold him. Van Dijk's going in, penalty.
Matip's wheeling away and celebrating, and Van Dijk's still trying to have him on. And then for Salah's second, he says, "Oh well, if it wasn't on a yellow, we could have booted him and he wouldn't have scored."
Wouldn't have got near him.
I love that honesty though.
Well, it was his own fault for getting tight anyway, because as soon as Salah seen that space, he poked it into the space and was away, wasn't he? So it was one of his, not one of his better performances, Luiz, on Saturday, and perfect for Liverpool because they took full advantage, particularly the second half. So I think he'll be decent for Arsenal, but glad there is. It was one of his more comical performances on Saturday.
Can I say I think the criticism is a little bit harsh? Like Mohamed Salah will do this against any defender on the planet.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think he has a way of doing it, doesn't he? And I think it's what frustrates me is after a game like that, which Liverpool fully deserved to win, we're by the better team by far, and then you have afterwards him saying that it wasn't a penalty, that it was the most blatant penalty going. You have this debate about not debate, but this infatuation with the fact that Van Dijk got dribbled past, and things like stories like that. It should just all be about how good Liverpool were. They were by far the better team, a class above Arsenal, and we should just all be talking about how good Liverpool are. But someone like David Luiz seems to have a habit of having everyone talk about him, and we're falling straight into that trap. But having everyone talk about him,
did find that from doing the papers roundup. Most of the nationals led on Arsenal and how bad they were, how defensive they were in the David Luiz horror show.
Yeah, well, let's talk about someone from Liverpool who was very, very good, which was Joel Matip, who, Theo, do you think now has nailed down that place alongside Van Dijk? He's defending very, very well again, and of course it was a great goal as well.
Well, I've not changed my mind since Saturday, so regular listeners of the podcast know I've not been his biggest fan. I've always thought he's had a car crash moment in himself, like David Luiz showed at the weekend, but he has really risen to the challenge since he's gotten.
Did you think that even in the last, say, 4 to 6 months?
Yeah.
You still felt like
I still thought the last season, really? That's interesting.
I thought he was potentially going to be the weak link in the Champions League final. I'd always have Joe Gomez ahead of him just because it's the future of Liverpool's defence. He offers more, and the defence was so good in the first half of last season. We can't forget how good it was. But maybe it's because Van Dijk hasn't been at his very best at the start of this season. Matip is looking very good alongside him. There's confidence to his game. Like when he's doing these runs forward, you're not thinking, crap, he's going to lose the ball here and then we're going to be caught out at the back. He knows what he's doing. And there were times like, it was the Aubameyang chance really that stood out as the main moment. That could have changed the game completely if Arsenal get a goal then.
Just after we'd gone 3-1 up, wasn't it? Literally.
Just after 2-0.
2-0. Sorry.
Because like all the Liverpool back four looked at the linesman thinking, oh, he's going to be offside. I had Doyley next to me, really animated, going, that's offside, properly screaming it.
Doyley animated?
Yeah,
in the press box.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he said it a couple of times there. And then Matip's the only one who sprints. And for someone who isn't really that fast compared to the rest, such pace to catch up with Aubameyang and take it off him was great.
There was a similar instance, wasn't there, quite early on in the Barcelona semi-final, not long after we'd gone in front, when, again, Barcelona got in behind. It was almost like everybody stopped.
Was that the one Coutinho
They
went
went
through?
like 2-on-1.
And it was weird because I thought he's going to shoot and score it. And he was like, he was looking for Messi.
And while they were looking around, Matip was like, thank you very much, steamed and took it off him. Shall I jump in on Matip?
You seem to be enjoy yourself. Go for it.
I think he's rapidly on his way to becoming a cult hero. I don't know if any of you
Do you think he's only on his way or he's not there?
Well, he
yet?
probably. Well, it's actually all right. No, he is already a cult hero. I don't know if anyone's seen the little meme that's doing around.
Super Cup celebrations.
Super Cup celebrations. I've noticed that I've only watched it back about 3 million times. The end of the Barcelona semi-final, and he's right in the middle of the throng on the final whistle, doing these big booming kind of type celebrations. Most importantly, though, he's an excellent defender. He seems to dovetail superbly well with Van Dijk. As mentioned before, Van Dijk was, struggling first half, but Nicolas Pepe particularly was, causing him more problems than most have. And I think since Matip has become a regular in the team, which really is, this calendar year, there have been occasions when he has outshone Van Dijk at times. Like I'm a huge fan of Joe Gomez. I thought he was outstanding first half of last season. I think in many ways he is the long-term future of Liverpool's defence, and I think he's got a big part to play this season. I can see him playing at least 30-odd games, some at centre-back, some at right-back. But Joel Matip has been a revelation over the last 9 to 12 months. I, like Theo, had completely written him off, certainly 18 months ago, that 4-1 game at Wembley against Tottenham, when Lovren really was the one that got the attention, but I completely saw my backside with Matip that day. Didn't want to see him in a Liverpool shirt again, and to me it's one of the great Liverpool comebacks with the way he's kind of reinvented himself and has become an absolute key figure in this side now.
Yeah, I think if you look at it over the past 4 or 5 years, it's becoming very evident that teams are now prioritising centre backs and putting a lot more importance into centre halves. Look at Liverpool's deal for Van Dijk, 75 million. Laporte was around about 60 million, wasn't he? Tottenham paid a lot of money for Davinson Sanchez. Maguire is the obvious one this summer, isn't he? World's most expensive defender. And Liverpool picked up Joel Matip for free, didn't he? Three years ago? 3.5 years ago. He's a Champions League winner. He played in the final, had a great game alongside Van Dijk, kept Harry Kane quiet. So what can you say? Another testament to Liverpool's recruitment policy under Jurgen Klopp. And I think it was probably Klopp more than anyone who spotted Joel Matip. He would have known him well, wouldn't he, from his time in the Bundesliga when he played for Schalke. And is that a derby? Is it Dortmund, Schalke?
Yeah. He was saying he could never bring him to Schalke, to Dortmund, because of the rivalry. But he's a player he always wanted to sign. Yeah,
and brought him in on a free. So what an excellent piece of business that is. And I'm with you, Theo. I wasn't his biggest fan for a while, and it was only really maybe like the last 4 or 5 months that I've started to think, okay, maybe I've been a bit harsh on Matip, because he's been excellent since he come into the team in January, February time.
I think it also shows how much value you've got from signing Van Dijk, because you're now saying all 3 centre-back partners, they've had their best spells in the Liverpool shirt and look the most consistent when they've had that chance to be the first choice alongside him. Like Dejan Lovren, he's a bit of a figure of ridicule at the moment, but let's not forget, a year, 18 months ago, he was he had to go into that team. There was no one else, and he had his best run up to the Champions League final. He was the best player for Liverpool in that Champions League final. We've already said how good Gomez was last year, and now Matip, knowing that he is the first choice alongside Van Dijk, he's looking that extra confidence, so mature on the ball. When you've got a player like that alongside you, you can build that partnership. you're going to see the rewards in Liverpool are at the moment.
Absolutely. So how important then, Theo, is it that he's only got till the end of the season left on his contract? How important is it that they get that done?
It's weird that there hasn't been anything done on it already, because you think with all of these contracts Liverpool have sorted, they've wanted to go through the whole squad and get them tied down until 2022, 2023, basically the end of Klopp's contract.
Do you think it says that they're just relaxed about it and they think Matip will stay? There's no big deal. They'll get him tied down.
Well, you think the one they've done most recently is Oxlade-Chamberlain, and you think, well, he still had quite a few years left to go. You can understand why James Milner, Adam Lallana, they're letting those ones run out, because that's a decision you make at the end of the season. Yeah. Say Leeds won promotion, James Milner is perfectly within his rights to say, I would like to be first choice for them in the Premier League for a year. They're my hometown club, and you'd let him go. Yeah. If Adam Lallana came and said he wanted to go back to Southampton or something, you'd let him go. But Matip's got the best years ahead of him. Yeah. That is a player you want at your future. Especially now with the way he's playing. But then the fact that he's worked so hard to get back in the team, you're not really fearful of someone coming in and getting him on a free transfer, are you, and agreeing this pre-contract agreement. I'd imagine there'll be progress on it before January, because, again, that's something you need to sign up before there is any of that. But Liverpool have just been working through the players in the squad as they go along. After Chamberlain, maybe Matip's the next one. Yeah.
Ghosty, is it a slight problem for Klopp in the sense that... Now, this is just my opinion, but I'm pretty sure that Klopp would want to get Joe Gomez in the team. I think he tried to at the start of the season, and I think that he sees Joe Gomez as the long-term option alongside Van Dijk. I think we've all said that. I think we'd all probably agree.
Michael Owen said it yesterday, got a bit of stick for it.
But Joel Matip is playing so well that you can't really put Joe Gomez in the team. So is that a problem? You can't get Joe Gomez those games, or is it just... I suppose it's a good problem, but... What do you think about that situation?
Yeah, in terms of problems that a manager can have, they'd probably choose that one as the favourite, wouldn't he? You know, having players playing well. I've seen the team selector this week, and I noticed you thought Gomez might have started because of the pace of Arsenal's attack, and I thought that was quite sound reasoning. So I was a little bit surprised when Matip started, but how can you leave him out at the moment? He's in the form of his Liverpool career, and I know Ian Doyle would say it, that he thinks he's been better than Van Dijk for the last 3 or 4 months. So when you've got a player who's in that kind of form and causing someone to make a statement like that, then it's difficult to leave him out. So Joe Gomez got years and years on the side, and I'm not worried in terms of the long term for him. I think he will be Liverpool's centre-back for years to come. But at the moment, you can't really overlook Matip, because what's the incentive for players if they're getting left out when they're in the form of their careers?
Definitely. Just before we move on, Dan, I think it's fair to say Joel Matip's not exactly known as Mr. Personality. He's not one for giving lots of interviews. He's not one for seeking the attention of the cameras. But there does seem to be a big character there. It's starting to shine through a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems he's a fairly understated type of guy. Yeah. Quite reserved. He's certainly not one to be shouting his mouth off all over social media or doing big mad selfies or hashtags or all the rest of it. But I think he's shown real immense strength of character over the last period of time when it was very clear he had fallen off the pecking order. He got a rare start, I think, with Southampton at home last season, and scored a goal, an early goal at the Anfield Road down from a corner, and was quite animated in the celebration. I remember noticing that at the time and thinking, this isn't someone that's necessarily written off his Liverpool career. He's obviously that's someone that's going to look to take his opportunities when they're given to him. And then he was kind of in and out of the team that last half of the season, and then he had a real stroke of bad luck when he started the crucial final Champions League group game against Napoli. He had an outstanding game, and then in the last kick of the match, fell and
collarbone, wasn't it?
Done his collarbone. So then face another spell on the sidelines. And I just think footballers aren't idiots. The Anfield crowd, much though we love them, and it's an educated crowd, will let a player know when they don't really rate him. And Matip couldn't have failed to have picked up on that, I don't think. But he has won, the vast majority of people round just by his performances and by the force of his personality. And when I say personality, I mean his willingness to get on the ball, take the ball forward. I mean, I think certainly at the start when he was doing his little slaloms into midfield, people would kind of have their heart in their mouth a little bit. But I think there's people respect what he's doing now, and some of the passes that he's able to the way he's able to start attacks by bringing the ball from the back has really become a key part of Klopp's side. So yeah, he's never going to be the most demonstrative or outgoing of Liverpool characters, but he is a fundamental part of this team now, and I think his maybe more understated, reserved nature perhaps kind of offsets and dovetails quite well with maybe some of the more flamboyant areas of the side, and that's why I think you look at this team, you look at this squad, and it does look very, very well balanced, and Joel Matip played a big part in that.
Absolutely. One thing I just want to pick you up on, he loves a goal, doesn't he? I love someone who celebrates, like they don't have anything planned, he just loves a goal. Henderson's like that. When Henderson scores, he just goes off his head.
Like he just won the World Cup final every time.
And Matip was just like that. He just loves a goal.
And that's what you want to see, because for some footballers like Matip, you never know if that goal might be your last one. So you're damn right you should enjoy it.
Good, yeah. Right, okay, moving on. Theo, Mohamed Salah, I mean, there isn't really much we can add to what has been said about him so many times before, but it was just another world-class game. You mentioned it before, that goal was out of this world. I don't really know what to ask you, really. Just what a player, what a man.
It's one where watching it live, you see him go past David Luiz and it is his normal finishes and it just rolls into the bottom corner. It's only when you watch the replays you see the pace and the speed of mind to get it off Luiz, to do that little flick around him. Yeah. I didn't realise how far back he started when he makes this run. Like it's virtually on the halfway line rather than just on the edge of the box. And it's whilst he's not had to go past 3 or 4 players, when you think of his goal that won the Puskas Award, the one against Everton, I'd argue this one's a lot better.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And it's just a great finish, and he's finding that confidence. And I think we're changing our opinions every week with who's the leading man in this Liverpool front three. Against Southampton, Mane's come in and he's been brilliant. Against Chelsea, Firmino's turned that game. And then against Arsenal now we're saying it's Salah again. They're all playing their part. And
that's the beauty of them, isn't it?
One of them at least is going to punish you every week.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember when he went through, when he did that little bit of skill and you could see that he was running into space, just thinking, please score, because that would just rounded off nicely. It was world class. What also was world class, Paul, was his penalty. I mean,
yes,
we've spoken a few times about his penalties, and I feel like they just keep on getting better. And that was just, I mean, you can't strike a penalty better for me than that.
No, I'm of the opinion actually that if a penalty goes in, it's a good one, and I don't really care how it does that.
I'm breaking that.
Yeah. So, but the one
did you write that, Paul?
Yeah,
she's right.
The one in the Champions League final was just a toey down the middle, wasn't it? And it was a good job that Hugo Lloris dived out the way of it, because that wasn't a particularly good one, although it did go in. But the one on Saturday was just right in the top corner, and you're not getting anywhere near it. It's certainly Salah's best penalty for Liverpool, and as good as one as I can remember off the top of my head. Superb. And there was a period where Salah started taking penalties, and it was a little bit of a, why is he taking it off James Milner? Why change it's not broke, don't fix it. But he's taking them with more confidence now, and that one on Saturday just suggests that he should be the main man on the spot kicks from now.
I will point out he's not taking them off Milner. The ones he's taken is only when Milner's not on the pitch.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Are you sure?
There was that one at Huddersfield, wasn't there?
Yeah. But for the majority of them, it's been when Milner's not on the pitch. So that's just Salah wanting the ball, wanting to get the goal count up.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine Milner trying to grab one back off him now for Liverpool on a penalty when they're both on the pitch.
Be interesting to see.
Yep.
Well, particularly after what's happened at Man United over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on a little bit and just talk about Roberto Firmino, who, even when he's not, okay, he stole a few headlines for that little flick, but even when he's not scoring goals, he's still integral to everything Liverpool do, isn't he?
I may have mentioned this before, but I think Roberto Firmino is quite a good footballer. I think he's actually one of the best footballers I've ever seen play for Liverpool. I'd go as far as saying I think he's arguably our cleverest footballer since Dalglish. I saw a tweet on Saturday from someone saying Roberto Firmino plays footy in 5D, and I thought that was a brilliant way of putting it, because he just seems to see things, to paraphrase an old John Motson bit of commentary, he seems to see angles that other teams don't appreciate or other players don't appreciate. He is just an absolute joy to watch. There was something he did. It was towards the end of the first half, and I don't know how to describe it.
It's a tough one for a podcast.
There was kind of like a ball played like over his shoulder into the inside left channel, and there were kind of players converging on him, and somehow he seemed to kind of like flick the ball past and round them, but in a way that seemed to defy geometry and angles. And having a quick squiz at Twitter at half time, over people seeing a load of tweets going, "What did he just do there?" And obviously, I hadn't had the benefit of.
Was it
of
the
a
one
replay.
where he touched it around?
Yeah.
And then he just got crowded out? Was it that one?
It didn't really lead to anything, but it just to me illustrated what an extraordinary footballer he is and how lucky and privileged we are to watch him in a red shirt week in, week out. Long may it continue. I love the bones of him.
Well, it's interesting too. I was just looking at something before we came into this podcast. Klopp, with the exception of Dominic Solanke, has never bought a centre forward during his time, a traditional centre forward, shall we say, during his time at Liverpool. Does that say a lot about almost another good problem, but another problem created for him in the sense that there just isn't anyone like Roberto Firmino, is there?
No, there's not. I think when Liverpool were signing him, he was described as Luis Suarez without goals. Well, since joining Liverpool, he's added goals to his games, and he's not got the controversy. It's going to be the biggest challenge to replace him when the time comes where his legs go, or he does want to leave Liverpool, maybe go back to the Brazil or something. Because you look
the Brazil.
Well,
It's like you're going Scouse now, the Asda, the Brazil. I like it.
You look at
the likes of Mane and Salah, they're pacey players, inverted forwards. There are so many of them all over the planet.
Yeah.
They might not have the talent of those two at the moment, but you wouldn't be surprised one day to see Klopp sign another one and turn them into a world-class player.
Yeah.
Who out there is like Firmino, who's got that work rate, who can complement the other players in the team so well, and will just turn up anywhere on the pitch and put in a shift. Like if Klopp wanted to play fullback, he'd play fullback. If he wanted to play centre mid, he would. Like we saw last season, Liverpool change formation, and he wasn't at his best in the 4-2-3-1. No complaints. Still did the job. Still did the exact same stuff. You get the complaints that he doesn't score as many as he should. He would have been disappointed that he didn't get his goal against Arsenal. But when you've got Salah scoring, it's because of what Firmino brings to this team. The fact that he has that work rate and he fits in so well with all the players on the pitch. And like Dan said, long may it continue. He's just exceptional to watch.
I actually look back at his first interview for Liverpool just the other day. Don't ask me why. But I had a little look back and I was reading what he had to say. And one of his answers when he was asked what sort of player he was, he actually alluded to the fact that he said, coaches like me, I'm quite tactical and whatnot, and essentially sort of hinted at what he's become at Liverpool, which is something that I think many coaches, and Rodgers was one, couldn't get the best out of, but Klopp just seems to get the absolute maximum out of him, doesn't he? And he's made him absolutely key to what Liverpool do. Yeah,
I think if you don't watch Liverpool every week, I think maybe if across the continent people don't realise how important he is because they don't see him scoring 30, 35 goals every season. His best return was 27, which was 2017-18. Last season, I think he only got 16. But
rival supporters tend to think you can just like copy and paste. You can go, oh, well, he doesn't score X amount of goals. So you can take him out and put in, I don't know, say a Harry Kane. And as good as a Harry Kane is, he just doesn't do the same job as what Firmino does for Liverpool.
Exactly, yeah. So watching him up close, you see how much he contributes. That isn't just goals or assists, because he just has such a huge impact on how the rest of the team performs, and never was that more evident than when he come on against Chelsea in the Super Cup, and within 2 minutes he'd completely turned the game on its head, laying it on a play for Mane. And with Dan, Dan's glowing tribute to him then, I don't think I can expand further on it, because he's just a sensational footballer, and one that Liverpool fans are privileged to watch because he's brilliant. Even if it isn't immediately obvious to supporters of other clubs who don't watch him week in, week out.
What I like about him as well is how he's won over the Brazil fans, because the fact that he went to Europe at such a young age, the Brazilians, they haven't really seen him play. And you think of the strikers they've had over the years, there's been so many great players, and they've never really appreciated Firmino. When he was first in that squad, they didn't really want him in the squad because he was playing up front and he wasn't getting the goals. His record was initially quite poor. Obviously, he had the World Cup where Jesus was playing in front of him, and they still didn't want Firmino ahead of him. But then, since the World Cup, Jesus has had such a he had such a bad tournament. Firmino's come in. He's been first choice striker in the past couple of years. Won the Copa America with them. They now see what a good player he is. He's getting glowing endorsements from the likes of Ronaldinho and that. So it's not just Liverpool now who see they've got a good player on their hands. It's Brazil as well.
I feel like he could have one of those seasons as well where he gets something like 27 goals. He just, I don't know, something about, he seems in the mood, doesn't he, Dan?
Right from the Charity Shield, I was, to me, one of the amazing aspects of the way Liverpool finished last season was the fact that we for basically the last 6 weeks, we're deprived of this man who I'm sure one of our pieces today I've seen him referred to as kind of like almost like Klopp's lighthouse, in the way that kind of like he shines things up.
You got the wrong Brazilian. That's James Pearce, our former full-time Liverpool reporter, both home and away.
I still don't think it's necessarily a bad analogy in terms of like someone that kind of basically lights up things for others. I think it seems to me he's one that's maybe appreciated more by. He's a thinking man's footballer. Yeah. He's never going to get. I'd love it if he did get 30 goals this season, Joe, because I think he deserves a goal on Saturday. But I'd be surprised if it happened, because he's the personification of the kind of character that puts the goods of the team above himself. We've had a few players like that in the past, the likes of Dirk Kuyt and your hero Emil Heskey, who would sometimes subsume their own kind of instincts for the betterment of the team. And I think Fabinho's done that for Robbie. For me, Robbie has a new one.
What's going on?
Wow. Let's not go there, otherwise Joe's head will completely fall off.
No. I've lifted that band today.
Senor Firmino has this element to him where he brings other people into play. He enables the team to shine, and he may never get the big plaudits that he deserves, but those who watch him week in, week out, as Paul said, really appreciate what he does. I saw a tweet that kind of went viral after the game by some Arsenal fan. I think it might have been before the game, going blah 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 about Lacazette, and finished off by saying, "Don't ever compare Firmino to Lacazette." And I didn't reply, but if I had have done, it would have been on the lines of "Don't worry, mate, we won't." Well, but I think probably not in the way that he meant.
I think that underlines what we say about him, isn't it? That opposition fans just have no idea. And okay, let's say he doesn't get the 25 to 30 goals this season, he ends up with 15. I'd always argue with Firmino that he adds 10 to 15 goals onto the total of what Mane and Salah end up scoring 100%. because of the way he plays. Well, you mentioned him, so let's talk about him. The Lighthouse, great piece by James, by the way. If you're not a subscriber to The Athletic, you should definitely get over there and read it. A good piece about Fabinho. Another great performance from him, Theo, on Saturday. I mean, if you think about how far he's come in the last 12 months, it's quite remarkable, isn't it? Because he obviously couldn't get in the team at first. But now, I think in that midfield, he's first choice, isn't he, every time?
He's got to be. He's the only player in that Liverpool midfield who's like that. And when you've seen however long, like Henderson filling in as a number 6, and it's more like a square peg in a round hole. I'm not saying he did a bad job. Same when Wijnaldum fits in. It's a sort of different role from him. But Fabinho, he's so physical, and he's just impossible to get around. Like, there's always been the doubts that he doesn't quite have the pace, but he doesn't need to. You just can't get it off him. And if you see a team counter-attacking on you, you just know his shoulder is going to appear, shove you off the ball, toe it away, and just play out wide to one of the full-backs or back to the centre-backs and start an attack.
His passing is so underrated. But I mean, he's the one who put the ball out to the channel for Salah to get the second goal. I mean, his forward passing especially is just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something you don't normally associate with traditional defensive midfielders. Such a great range of passing, particularly ones who throw a tackle in as well, which he does. And I like to see that, because I don't think Liverpool have had too many of those players over the years. Have they? Someone who just puts the foot in where and when it's needed. And there was a tackle in the second half who just completely thwarted an attack straight away, and Liverpool were on the attack with 3 against 2, I think
Arsenal was a foul, didn't they?
Yeah. I remember there was one against Suarez, which earned him a yellow card, which was never
one of the great Liverpool tackles of all time. I've already made a note to mention that. It was but I don't think it was ever shown properly on the TV, because I'm sure they were showing a replay at the time. He was booked for it, you're right, and they only showed basically a slow motion replay, so you didn't really get the absolute full on thump of it. I mean, even sitting in the upper tier of the Camden Road, the Kenny Dalglish stand, you almost winced at it. But it was, I reckon it was around about the 10-minute mark, only a few minutes after we'd gone in front. And to me, that was a massive moment in that match. Yeah. If you watch it back, as I've only done about 3,000 times since May, there was plenty going on in that first 20 minutes between Suarez and Fabinho, back and forth. But there's a lovely clip, kind of like as the play moves down to the other end after the tackle, where Suarez, half limping, kind of runs past him. But there's almost like a begrudging respect from two warriors to each other, like, you've absolutely crunched me there, lad, but I'll have to give you that one. It was, honestly, I've replayed it in my head loads. One of the great tackles.
But he combines that with basically just being Brazilian, so he's naturally good on the ball, and he's got a good range of passing. So he's got a lot really from a defensive midfielder. Again, another player who Liverpool are fortunate to have in the ranks.
It's funny that he used to be a right back, but you think the Rafa Benitez Liverpool team, the player you can probably compare him best to is Mascherano, that hard enforcer, and Liverpool then had to have Alonso and Gerrard to do the passing. Well, Fabinho combines both roles.
I think there's shades, sorry to jump, I think there's shades of Didi Hamann as well.
Definitely, yeah.
In the way, in his, it's quite tall and wiry, but the way he kind of shields that back four, will step forward and produce a perceptive pass here and there. Or occasional shot from the edge of the box. He hasn't only got a couple of goals, hasn't he?
One, hasn't he? Was it?
There was one.
Newcastle.
Newcastle was a header from a corner, yeah. But there was one. I seen it on LFC TV only a couple of days ago from one point last season when there was a great bit of interplay. Might possibly have been Chelsea at home towards the end of the season when Suarez did an amazing flick into him and he had a really good low shot that was well saved at the near post. The other thing I was just going to mention...
I got confused there.
Salah. Sorry, long weekend.
What a team that would be like.
The only other thing I wanted to mention about him was that there's a nice parallel that we're talking about him as an absolute fixture in this Liverpool team now after the game against Arsenal. It was Arsenal away last season, I think early November, when it was probably the first big game he played and he looked quite some way off the pace. I remember we were all kind of thinking and saying, might take this lad a while. Within a few weeks, he's really showed what he can do, and as the lads have said, he is, he's a major part of Liverpool's hopes going forward this season.
Well, he dovetails well with the two midfielders who are alongside him on Saturday, Theo. I mean, Henderson and Wijnaldum, they're sort of Klopp's go-to midfield now, aren't they, those three? And I think they showed why, because they get through so much graft, don't they? And all three of them are better on the ball than anyone gives them credit for, aren't they? There's
always that criticism there that Liverpool midfield doesn't provide the goals. But as we've said time and time again, this midfield is set up that way because the fullbacks then get so much of the ball, they can get forward, they can get the crosses in, they can get the assists. And you can criticise as much as you want. It does the job. It's effective. And that's why these three complement each other so well. The fact that Henderson and Wijnaldum can go in any of the three midfield roles and do a solid job for Liverpool. They work so hard. There was that one pass from Henderson, that volleyed one across the pitch. Yeah. The crowd actually winced at that. They weren't happy with that at first. And then you think, wow, has he meant that? That's amazing vision as Robertson just burst forward so much time.
There was the pace put on it as well.
Yeah, it was perfect. It just stopped, and you usually expect to see that fly out. Yeah. We already know what Wijnaldum can do. The fact he's always going to be a hero just for the brace against Barcelona, isn't he? But he
only gave away one pass.
One pass. That's insane.
According to Andrew Beasley, who has written a very good column
do that. It's great. That's why they complement each other. And then you look to your bench and you can bring on an Oxlade-Chamberlain who is going to get forward, drop his shoulder, and just have that energy. Milner, who will run and run. Naby Keita when he comes back. Lallana when he's on the ball and he's on form. They all complement each other so well. There's always that little bit something different. And with Fabinho at the base, Klopp has such variety.
I feel like we could talk all day about how good Liverpool are, but I feel like we've also ran out of superlatives and ran out of time. So thanks very much for tuning in. Liverpool is still top of the league, and long may it continue. We'll see you on Friday for when we look ahead to Burnley, when Liverpool hopefully extend their lead at the top. Thanks very much. Ta-ra.